Good evening. I will call to order Wilsonville City Council meeting for December 17th, 2018 at 7:12 p.m. and request a roll call, please.
Council President Starr?
Here.
Councilor Akroval?
Here.
Councilor Lehan?
Here.
Mayor Knapp?
Here.
Councilor Stevens is excused.
Thank you. Would the audience please rise and join us in a pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, thank you all for coming on this occasion of Council President Starr's 192nd 192nd meeting. You're just getting started, fellas. Yep. No, really, it's an occasion. So, first item of communication that's up is our comprehensive annual financial report from the Marina Company.
We need to approve the agenda.
We do need to approve the agenda. See, that's why we need a council president. Yeah.
Your Honor, I move that we approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded that we approve the order of agenda. If you would like a copy, there's some at the side of the room, I believe. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Passes 4-0. Now we will ask for the Marina Company. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Kathy Rodacker, the Finance Director, and tonight I have Tanya Moffett. She's a partner of the certified public accounting firm, Marina and Company, and they're the ones who do our annual audit. You all received copies of the documents for your going away present. I did not give you one, so enjoy.
All good with that.
Okay, yeah, I bet you were.
Honorable Mayor and City Council members, I'm pleased to report that for the June 30, 2018 financial statements for the City of Wilsonville and the City of Wilsonville's Urban Renewal Agency, we had a clean opinion or an unmodified opinion for the financial statements, which is the highest level of opinion that we can give on a financial statement. We also have a clean opinion on the independent auditor's report required by minimum standards, which the Oregon State Legislature says that there's some specific things that they want Oregon municipal auditors to look at. So for example, ORS 279, which is public purchasing. So we look to ensure that if the city's going out for bid for something, that you're following the proper procedures. So we tested those specific things that the state of Oregon has asked us to look at, and we had no findings in that area either, for either the city or for the Urban Renewal Agency. So they're in compliance. There is a couple things that I would like to note in the financial statements, that there are 2 new pronouncements, so some changes from the June 30, 2017 financial statements. So if you compare the June 30, 2017 and the June 30, 2018, there's a couple of changes, and that's because of the Government Accounting Standards Board's changes. So one of them is GASB 75, which is OPEB or other post-employment benefits. So you will see some new line items in the financial statement. That is not because the city just decided to go out and do this. It's because their oversight regulatory agency for the financial statements has asked all government entities to add those to the financial statements. And then I'd also like to point out that the city early implemented the GASB 87, which is for leases. And so I want to commend the finance department and city staff for taking the initiative to implement that 2 years early. They're one of the first entities in the state of Oregon to implement it. It took a lot of work, some calls back and forth between the city and the Government Accounting Standards Board, because not all of the guidance is out yet because it's so new. But I'm happy to report that we agree with the way that the city did that and implemented it, and so that's something that's new in there as well. So those are the 2 significant changes between the 2017 and the 2018. I'd also like to point out that for the city's financial statements, the finance department and city management has decided to do a comprehensive annual financial report. This is an award program that the city has earned for the June 30, 2017, and we anticipate that the city will earn it for the June 30, 2018 financial statements. So what does that mean to you? It means that they are taking extra time and effort to put some additional information into your financial statements for the city. So for example, there's a statistical section at the back which has 10 years worth of data. And so the nice thing is that even though we have all these government changes and things, you can go in and you can see a snapshot of the city for the last 10 years. And so it's a great location to go look and see how the city's doing over time. But I'd like to commend the finance department staff for doing that and putting that together. The city of Wilsonville is one of the gold stars in the state. A lot of other entities look to your city's financial statements to see what you're doing and look at examples in here. And so I want you to understand that what a good job that your team is doing for the city of Wilsonville. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Council, any questions? I don't know if most cities that you interact with receive those distinctions. Maybe you can give us a little context around that. I mean, are we doing average or are we doing?
The city of Wilsonville is above average. And so a lot of our clients strive to have excellent financial reporting, but the city of Wilsonville is one of the gold stars in the state. And so you're above average.
Thank you very much. I'm afraid we don't have more questions, but thank you so much for the report. And those of us who are not retiring from council will have to read this entire thing, see what we can learn. Thank you so much. That will bring us to citizens input and community announcements, which is an opportunity for visitors to address council on things that are not on the agenda. Also time to address things that are on the agenda but not scheduled for a formal public hearing. Staff and council will make every effort to respond to questions raised during this section, either before tonight's meeting ends or as soon as we can thereafter. We do ask you to limit your comments to no more than a couple or 3 minutes. I have a couple of speaker cards. If there's anyone else that would like to speak at this section, please complete a card and pass it forward to the city recorder, and we will include you in. Mr. Spence, if you would please come forward to start with.
I'll adjust the chair while you do your thing.
My name is Dick Spence, 8428 Southwest Curry Drive, Wilsonville, Oregon. Scott Starr, I am honored to call you my friend. The city is honored that you have been a council person and president, well, not president all the last 8 years. In those 8 years, the city has grown, not only in population, citizens, but in economic value, in the economy, and the prosperity. I've always wondered if these 8 years to you have not been a job or an occupation, but more of a passion. Also, I'd like to thank you I'm a board member of the Wilsonville Community Sharing, the food bank, for all your assistance in these 8 years of obtaining monies for us so we can help the citizens who are in need. We have helped people pay their rent so they can stay in their apartments with their families. We've paid for prescription drugs, for utility bills, for the hunger, and we have hunger in this city. So, Scott, thank you for everything you've done. You have been, are, and always will be a great asset to this city and its citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, man. Tina, do you have the check? I'm going to give you a check before I check out. For $1,000 for Wilsonville Community Sharing.
Thank you. Such a great guy. people thank you on behalf
Get a
of...
picture of
Would
that?
you like to get a photo of that for our newsletter here?
My camera, but in my pocket. All right. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3.
Ms. Whaler.
I don't have a check for you.
Doris Whaler, 10668 Southwest Edgewood Court, Wilsonville. First of all, Scott, I'd like to thank you for your financial stewardship. I believe the first year that you were a counselor, you managed to find $1 million to cut in the budget. And you've been a financial steward all the way along of the things we've done. I know because I've questioned you on some things and you've explained them to me. Second, I'd like to thank you for your steady support of the Chamber of Commerce and the hundreds of businesses the Chamber represents. You're always the one that we go to convey what business wants or what business needs. And certainly, the whole aspect of the city being friendlier to business has occurred while you have been in office. Perhaps most important, you've been a tremendous public servant. You've been responsive to the public. You could always be called upon. You always return calls. You've been fair in your decisions. And I'd like everybody who isn't speaking, who's here in support of Scott, to stand up, please. These are just a few of your friends. And more than your friends for being a counselor, it's because you're one of the most unique and special people I've ever met. So we shall definitely miss you, but thank you for your 8 years of service, and think about running again in the future.
Thank you.
And I've received a card from Pauline, who I don't have a last name for. But we need to get you on the record with your name and address, if you would, please.
Yes.
Good evening.
Thank you. My name is Pauline. I live in 28413 431 Orleans Avenue.
You have a last name?
Xu,
How do you spell?
XU.
XU, okay.
I like to stress about Regional Park 5 and Regional Park 6 about building a tennis court and building houses. My opinion is opposed to build any tennis court in Regional Park 5 and opposed to build any houses in Regional Park 6. Under Original Park 5 park plan, there should be only the green park on the north side of our house without any tennis court. But now the court is located next to our house and less than 25 feet from our yard. Under Regional Park 6 park plan, no single house should be built along Berlin Avenue of the park area. This park should only have a green space and a tennis court. Previously, we had a broad view without blocking. Under current plan, 6 houses in close proximity and more houses further down the hill would be built and obstruct the views around our home. The house 4 units down from us with the same floor plan was initially marketed at some dollar amount. It was not marked down from okay, I don't want to say this, but I like to say, despite the home having interior upgrade, what we paid is very, very much more than the house 4 unit down. That's because of our home surrounded by the park and the green space. When looking at buying our home, the salesman confirmed the city park plan wouldn't be changed to build houses. As a result, we bought the house with a peace of mind and emphasize on the location, as any person buying a home would want. Now, not only has the city unexpectedly decided to build houses in the area previously designed to be green space, but also a tennis court right in our home. Having even one unexpected tennis court built is one too many. The unexpected tennis court that is located so close to our house generates noise and the traffic that significantly decrease our quality of life and directly devalue our home. As a result of the reason we have listed, we request for the city to remove the tennis court plan from Regional Park 5, and if needed, to build it in one of the other more suitable large place area around the Willowbrook. So we are opposed to build any tennis court in Regional Park 5 and opposed to build any houses in Regional 6. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will be talking about this, Mr. Cosgrove, I think under ordinance number 830. Is that correct?
The park issue has already been dealt with. This is about the zoning. This is just zoning. This is not the park.
Yeah, the staff report, I thought, had some discussion about the modifications that the builder had.
Yes, we will have new information on the tweaks that were made based on the previous public testimony, but that horse has left the barn in terms of comments on the park design.
Yeah, it's been in front of several government bodies, including Planning Commission, and then it's been discussed here at council a couple of different times.
ERB and City Council.
The tennis court was, however, part of council discussion, and I'm not clear if that's been dealt with. So maybe when we get to that, we can clarify.
We can have staff update.
Okay. So that'll be a little bit later when we get to ordinance number 830 then, that we'll be able to do that. Are there any other speaker cards? I'm not having any. In which case, I think that we should go on then. Under mayor's business, we wanted to also acknowledge Council President Starr and his very brief 8 years here and the the number of meetings he's come to. But seriously, Scott and I have developed a what I think is a very positive working relationship over time, and I really appreciate that engagement, Scott, and the extent to which you have advocated strongly for what you believe in and for how you see the best benefit to the city. And I think that more often than not, we have reached a meeting of the minds on issues as they've come forward. And I think that the city is stronger and more economically robust than it was 8 years ago, and I think that that should be a gratifying thing to you in looking back at your time. It's hard to know when you haven't sat in that chair how you can affect or how you will be able to affect things, but over time I think it becomes something that is more clear, and government is kind of a team sport. It's not a single sort of a thing, but you have represented the city so well that I want to commend you for that. And thank you for your time working with us. Councilors, would you like to say anything?
Sure. I've enjoyed working with Councilor Starr, and I would say he has been, since I've returned to the council, he's been the council president that whole time. Were you before that? Were you for 4 years? Have you been council president for 8 years? Six. Well, only 6 years. Well, I wonder. But anyway, I think he has done an excellent job as council president, which has been demonstrated many times when he has had to take over the role of chairing the meeting. And, well, frequently it has gone really quickly. Not to say anything wrong with the mayor, but the council president has a certain efficiency about him that moves us through an agenda, often at a rapid pace. But in all seriousness, I do think that the mayor and the council president have demonstrated many times their ability to be a powerful team working outside of the city, particularly with different situations with Washington County, with the city of Tualatin, with Metro and JPAC. And anyway, the two of them together make a good team, have made a good team, a powerful team in the region, I think, in carrying forward the interests of the citizens of Wilsonville. So I have appreciated that since I've been here.
Thank you.
So thank you very much.
I want to say that I've really appreciated being able to overlap the last 2 years' time. And from my very first meeting, you were so welcoming to me, and that's continued. And I'm just very grateful for that. As I'm grateful for, all of the people that have been on council and have been really collaborative and respectful of each other. And I think that as a reflection of your genuine service that that you've embodied in your work here. So thank you. I've learned a lot from serving, in this group with you and with this diverse and thoughtful collection of voices. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Cosgrove, would you like to say anything for yourself or on behalf of staff?
I would like to, on behalf of staff, and I could have gone about this one of two ways. I could have winged it and probably done an okay job, but I chose the alternate path. I've written some things down that I want to read into the record, starting with some of the bigger projects you've been involved in and some of the kind of softer skills you brought to the council, and then just some personal comments that I'll read verbatim into the record so that someday if your great-grandkids want to know about their great-grandfather and what he did for Wilsonville, they can come back and there'll be a record of it. So.
For the record, I'm still waiting on grandkids.
Oh, okay. Well, you guys need to apply
I'd share that.
Apply some pressure there. So let's start with some of the bigger projects that you've helped usher across the finish line. One of the most recent ones that we've wrapped up is the Big Pipe lease agreement. That's that 68-inch giant straw that'll be delivering water from the Willamette all the way out to Hillsborough. And while that was sometimes a contentious process, you were one of 5 members that kind of stuck to the guns to make sure that Wilsonville got what it needed out of that. And that's namely $17 million that'll be coming back to the city's taxpayer and ratepayers. So That's a significant accomplishment on the part of the whole council. The Smart Fleet building was pretty much in design when I got here, but I do know that you were instrumental in helping value engineer that down from an estimated cost of 10 to 12 million down to about 6.5 million. Again, significant savings for the city's tax base. Multi-million-dollar upgrade to the sewer treatment plant, and that was a very unique project because it was one of the only ones that I know of in the state of Oregon that was an operate, design, build, operate. So we brought in a third party, CH2M Hill, to operate the plant for us while they were also designing and building a new plant on top of an old plant, and they had to keep that thing going at the same time, and that thing went off as well as could be expected. The Beckman Bridge is another project that you were involved in, not to be confused with the Beckman Dip Bridge, which will be a future project, but you were also involved in making sure that we had funding set aside for that from urban renewal. The Barber Street Bridge is another huge project that you were on council for that helped shepherd across the finish line. You were a key proponent in the acquisition of riverfront property to be added to Boone's Ferry Park. I know that you brought that up to the mayor. You guys brought that into executive session, and we got that going. That's going to be a gift that's going to give to the future of Wilsonville residents in perpetuity. You chaired the ECDEV and Urban Renewal Task Force. Both of those committees you were instrumental in making sure that people were heard, that the business community was heard, and that our fellow taxing entities that are affected by decisions we make are involved in those decisions. You were a key proponent for getting the Aquatic Rec Center to a vote of the people. We never said that we could deliver that, but I know that you were instrumental in making sure that people at least got a chance to get a vote on that. You served as council president, as Councilor Lehan just mentioned, for a majority of the time you were on council. I think that speaks to your leadership skills and your ability to work within a team environment. Your focus on customer service and ensuring the business community was at the table, I think is the hallmark of your background as well, but I think it speaks to the kind of person you are, that you care about how we treat people. Fiscal prudence, Councilor, I think Doris mentioned that, so I won't go on about that. We could talk about the budget reductions, but I think what I would take away from that is that we were able to do that without necessarily eliminating a lot of staff. So we were able to find efficiencies that brought some value back to the taxpayers, but also did it in a way that was good with staff. So I appreciate that. So the rest of this I'm just going to read, okay?
Okay.
So serving as a local elected official requires sacrifice and commitment, and you know that all too well. This is your 192nd city council meeting over 8 years of service. Each one of those meetings probably averaged around 4 hours per meeting. As you know, we start at 5 and we end sometimes at 9, but most times we go past that. And as everyone on council knows, the packets we send out are often more voluminous than the Code of Federal Regulations. So that requires you to read and prepare for each council meeting. That's probably another 3.5 hours that you need to prepare before you get to here. So if you add all that up, by my math, that's around 2,700 hours of your life that you will never get back and that you were not compensated for. That doesn't include the mandatory 2 to 3 budget committee meetings per year, the ECDEV and Urban Renewal Task Force meetings, the council liaison to other boards and commissions, all the special events, ribbon cuttings, dedications, special council meetings, and other duties as assigned. You did all this for an annual average salary of $0.00. Tonight, Scott, I'm happy to announce that we're tripling your salary for the last meeting. Jokes aside, this is all time that you could have been pursuing hobbies, spending time with your family. So to Tina, your kids, your friends, thank you for sharing and supporting Scott and his desire to give back to the community. He has made a difference and is now part of a select group of people who have established policies, overseen projects, made investments, and remained true to the vision established by the city's founding fathers and mothers. This is a special place, and you have helped keep it that way. On a personal level, I want to tell you how much I appreciate that you've never personalized issues when you might disagree with your fellow councilors or with me. By conducting yourself in this manner, you demonstrated that old adage that it's okay to disagree without being disagreeable. I suspect that you conducted yourself in this way because you value relationships above all else. You demonstrated empathy and compassion for the community you help lead and for the employees who serve Wilsonville. Your presence, perspective, ability to read the room, and sense of humor will be greatly missed. It occurs to me tonight that you and the mayor are the only 2 remaining elected officials that brought me on board, so I also value your wisdom and judgment. I wish you happiness and health in whatever comes next, and I thank you, and I will miss you.
Thank you.
We, as a staff, have a small parting gift. We researched and we realized that we could not name a street after you because you don't meet the historic standards. So we got this for you that you may move around the city at your convenience whenever you want. Just don't get caught. So if you want to open that, you can.
Right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you want to take a picture?
I'm glad there's not a Y.
Do you want to take a picture with council?
Sure.
That would be good.
Why don't we do that?
Should I hold this too?
Yeah, over there.
Yeah, let's do that. And after we do that, we're going to take a break and have a few refreshments and let us socialize a little bit. So we'll do that.
We did. Scott wanted for his last meal lemon
Wait a minute,
meringue
it's the
pie.
last meal?
So we have some really good lemon meringue pie back there for everyone.
All right.
I was cutting lemon meringue pie, which is why I don't have my camera.
And then, Mayor, I'm sure that the city attorney would like to say a few words as well.
I'm sorry, yes.
All right, gang. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to take a couple more. 1, 2. Thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Jacobson, would you like to say a word or two?
I should say just very few words. Taking my cue from the expediency of Constable Star, I am just going to say ditto.
Thank you.
Scott, do you want to address anything before we?
Well, I didn't know for councilor comments or now, but I'll go ahead and read just something that I had put together. So hopefully I can keep it together. So I am grateful. I didn't have glasses when I first started this role. I am grateful to have been voted in twice by the citizens of Wilsonville to serve them for 2 terms with the best that I had. There are so many people to thank. I would like to call out just a few. To the Chamber of Commerce 2009 Board of Directors who pushed me to serve, thank you, I think. Doris Whaler for helping me with my campaign, my first campaign. To my friends in the city who supported me and liked that I ran and not them. To my coworkers who supported me in my service. To my fellow counselors through the years and right now. Thank you to Barbara Jacobson and Brian Cosgrove, our 2 employees. They're the 2 employees of the council. For their great talent, leadership, and dedication to the city of Wilsonville. And to my wife, to my wife who always supported me, watched me on cable with the 7 other viewers, and gave me lots of free advice on how to improve and communicate better. Just some parting words of advice to several departments, to Public Works. Yes, you do many things that appear to be thankless tasks, but yes, people see what you do and they care and they appreciate all your hard work. To Legal, you ladies are studs. Keep up the good work, and I pity anyone who chooses to go to court against you. To HR, take great care of the staff. You have some amazing people, and it's okay to let them know that every now and then. To Community Development, I appreciate all the ordinances and regulations, but remember your job is paid for by the citizens of this town. Fight for them and try your best to make the rules work for them as much as possible. To SMART, our transit system, keep leading the way with creativity and passion for your clients. To the Parks Department, thank you so much for making the city look beautiful and for keeping it safe. If you ever need more fertilizer, there's plenty to be found in both houses of the Oregon State Legislature and a mother lode in the Metro Council chambers. To engineering, keep the standards high and keep your bids technical enough to save the citizens money. To finance, keep winning the awards for transparency. Trust is the most important characteristic you need to have with your citizens. And we just proved that again tonight. Brian, keep the culture, a customer service culture, a stewardship culture, and a cut above all local cities, just like we are right now. And to council, keep loving this town the way you do. Serve, not dictate. Listen more than talk. Respect other people's money and property. Also, preserve the continuity of our plans and strategies to keep the city focused and moving forward and cost effective, and never make it about a political party. Your positions are nonpartisan because the focus should always be on our city and not with the fading whims of one political party or another. I wish Wilsonville nothing but the best way far into the future. Thank you. And is Scott here? I got him here under a false pretext. Okay. And for Scott Symington, are you somewhere out there?
Raise your hand, Scott.
Thanks for coming. And I wanted to call you out because I wanted to say thank you for all the employees of this town and for all the things that I'm passionate about and what I care for customer service and for saving money and for ingenuity and team player and everything good about what the city represents. You are that employee. And I just wanted to thank you. I just see it all the time, and I'm so proud that I got to be a counselor for those 8 years that you were also here. So thank you. Thank you very much. So that's all I have.
Hi. All right, let's have some refreshments.
I couldn't tell you the truth.
Okay. So let's come back to order at 8:10 here. Under mayor's business, upcoming events, usually I give a little bit of recap on past events. Staff and I have met with newly elected representatives of District 39, Christine Drazen, and District 26, Courtney Neron, here in City Hall, and kind of reviewed past city positions and current legislative agenda and issues that we're working on. Both meetings were very positive, and I'm very encouraged at looking forward to working with both of these ladies in those positions. Clackamas County Coordinating Committee talked about the county agenda for 2019, really focusing on the I-205 third lane construction from Stafford around to Oregon City, the bridge over the Willamette there. And secondarily, really has become focused on pushing forward something that's being called the Clackamas County Transportation Futures Study, which would parallel something that Washington County did a couple years ago through special funding obtained through the state legislature. So they are seeking $2.5 million to talk about analyzing the transportation links that weave their way out between the metro area and Clackamas County, and then from the urban areas on out into the rural communities and how those work. So we'll see if that can be a successful effort. I've conducted interviews with all of the board and commission volunteer applicants that we have. I've not analyzed where people would best fit and what recommendations to make yet, but I'm working on that. Attended the Clackamas County Business Alliance annual meeting. Had a good discussion about the repositioning that business group is trying to do to be able to interact on important issues for the business community, especially focused on Clackamas County. Attended the Metropolitan Mayors Consortium meeting where we talked about, again, legislative priorities for 19 on behalf of the regional mayors. Attended the Greater Portland, Inc. Small Cities Consortium meeting where I have been elected to represent the mayors on the Greater Portland, Inc. Board of Directors on that business recruitment and retention effort also. So I'll be jumping into that. That was formerly Mayor Lou Ogden, who is not going to be in office anymore after the first of the year. If anyone is thinking about Mr. Ogden, I believe that the Chamber in Tualatin's holding a retirement event for him on this coming Thursday evening. Let me look here. 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock at the Tualatin Chamber on Southwest Nyberg. So that is something that I'm sure a lot of his friends and elected people in the Tualatin area will be attending also. Next council meeting will be after the first of the year, and it will be off schedule because of New Year's, so we'll be meeting on what? The 7th?
Yes.
The 7th, okay. So it's actually on schedule, all right. First Monday, but that's the 7th of January, so that gets us past New Year's. All right, so that'll work. I had one other item that we have talked about kind of obliquely and in an incomplete way for off and on for a couple of years. In attending the Metropolitan Mayors Consortium, I have more dialogue with other community mayors than I have had perhaps in years past. The challenges that cities are facing are similar in some ways and dissimilar in others. But one of the ways in which there seems to be a thread running through a lot of communities is the difficulty that cities have in recruiting capable, strong advocates for their communities to run for council. And it is a concern because The complexity, I think, is a little more every year. Our interactions with metro government, with our county governments, with our neighboring jurisdictions, with what's happening in Salem, all becomes more and more important. And we need to have people that are able to function and work within that dynamic. One of the things that has been observed multiple times is that it's difficult in a lot of cases to recruit anybody for council that isn't a retired person or a person with the economic means to take a lot of time away from their regular lives. As such, I'm aware that there are more than several. There's a handful of communities, at least, around the region that are either have made some changes or are looking into what the dynamics are for possible changes and looking at whether council electeds should have some small kind of compensation and what that might be. This has come up in our city several times from year to year, and it seems to me that it's been quite a number of years since we've thought about this, and I think the environment is changing. So I think that it would be appropriate for council to ask our staff to do some background work and bring forward to the council some information about what cities throughout the region are doing on that question. And so that's kind of number one is, you know, what's the competitive landscape that we're looking at? What are the acknowledged difficulties that other cities have had and how they're addressing that, number one. And then number two would be if we were to want to go a step beyond that, what would be an appropriate mechanism and process by which to consider whether Wilsonville would want to make a change from where their current position is on that. And as I envision it, that would not be something for council to do by themselves. It would involve, you know, outreach of some other kind. So I'm putting that on the table as a question whether this council is ready to ask staff to bring that information back to a new council after the first of the year to see what direction they do or don't want to go as far as study and analysis on that issue. So anybody else like to comment one way or the other?
Well, I certainly have, I have brought the issue up before at prior budget committee times, and because I have always felt that it's one thing to ask people to volunteer, and it's another thing to ask them to go in the hole. And that's what they're being asked to do, particularly if you're not retired. You frequently have to take time away from your job, and even if you have a salaried job, it's still taking time away from your job and from your employer, and it may involve things like childcare or and if it's your own business, it's time away from your own business that you could be making money. So there's always that piece, that expense that counselors as volunteers make, and it's over the years become greater and greater because we all are involved in so many meetings and committees and events and functions, and the driving alone is an issue, and there's just no way on all these little driving things that you're going to keep a driving record for all the tiny things that you drive around, which is why we instituted it when I was mayor. The mayor was paid $500 And that was assumed to cover a lot of those extra trips and things that the mayor did to cover the general expenses. Obviously, it's not anything to like a salary, but it at least keeps your volunteerism more at a zero-sum game. And I know a lot of other cities, city councils I talked to, there is some compensation, more for the mayor and less for councilors. Some of them I know used to be per meeting. There'd be, they paid $50 a meeting or something like that, which seemed odd because then you'd probably be going to every meeting. Or maybe not. But anyway, some nominal stipend I always thought was appropriate for the council, not just the mayor, but for the council, and I think we need to move it in that direction. And it's never an opportune time. There is never an opportune time. But that's not a reason to not do it. And some cities like Tigard pay more of a half-time position kind of salary to their mayor. But anyway, the other thing I would say is it needs to be tied to something so that elected officials are not having to come around and give themselves a raise. It needs to be tied to some escalator, whether that's a regional escalator or, some clerk position somewhere that when that moves, that it moves a percentage in line with something, but it needs to be, what do you call that? Indexed to something or other. Because it's not reasonable to ask an elected official to pay themselves.
Other comments?
I think doing some research in this area would be a good thing. I get asked the question a lot, actually, from peers, and people are always surprised to hear that that it's a volunteer position. I think that we have very high expectations for our staff and for each other. And I think that's the way that we all want it to be. And as part of those high expectations for each other, we expect that we will review 547 pages for the packet.
Touched on that earlier.
For this meeting, but that takes considerable time. It does. So I think that it would be good to have the information in kind of assessing all of those factors in the environment that we complete this work in.
Councilor Starr?
Well, I don't really have a dog in this fight anymore, so I feel free to just speak my mind on it. I think we as a city, and I mean, people have said just even tonight they appreciated the stewardship that I try to bring to the table, and I do. But as I look at this situation, the flip side is also we want to have this role attractive enough that we'll get smart, capable people to help make good decisions to make Wilsonville continue to be a great place to live. And I'm not saying that there needs to be necessarily some kind of salary or anything, but some stipend or something that I think, to Charlotte's point, doesn't pull people backwards. So my time, I haven't minded doing it. I had the wherewithal, but I didn't have childcare that I had to worry about like you do. And so I don't think that, I think as a city, there should be some help so you don't have to go backwards just to come here and do something like that. And I'm not trying to call you out. There's other issues that happen for the same thing. So for us just to take a look at what other cities are doing and just see how we can continue to maintain interest in a level that gives us the horsepower on council that in the long run makes key decisions that saves us way more money than we would lose by spending a few $100 a month or something like that. So I think it's worth pursuing and seeing what's out there and then kind of coming back, and you guys can make some kind of judgment call from there.
Yeah. Well, obviously, we would do it under guidance of legal. I don't think that the council can vote for themselves in their current whatnot. So we're kind of really looking at the longer-term health and vitality of the city and attracting the kind of people that we want to elected positions over time as people live their busy lives and their professional obligations and all that sort of thing. So, Mr. Cosgrove, is that clear enough at this point? Do you want any formal?
Well, I mean, I think I spoke earlier to, what you all do as volunteers. So I don't think you don't have to craft a really long argument to get into why you want to look into this issue. And I'm aware of my colleagues in other cities, and I know that there's different approaches and models, so we want to look into that. And so I'm also keen on process in terms of making sure that we do it the right way, so I can give some recommendations on that as well. I think you should have an external committee maybe be in charge of this that has representatives from various aspects of the community. But at the end of the day, who knows better than you all what that level of commitment is? So I can certainly put some stuff together, bring it back, and you mentioned earlier that you can't do anything to benefit this current council, so whatever you do decide would not, and you wouldn't inure, that benefit would not inure to you individually, but the next council that's seated in 2020, is that right? 2020, I think it's 2020. Then those rules, if you did adopt them, would kick in at that time.
Right.
So I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
With a motion, a second, and a vote.
You would like a motion?
Well, if you're going to direct me to do that, then I need a motion, a second, and a vote, yes.
All right. So, council, are we prepared to make a motion?
You want to make a motion? Or you want me to make a motion?
If you would like to, I would.
Your Honor, I would move that we direct staff to look at the issue, to research the issue of council compensation in a broader sense than we have done in the past.
And bring back a recommendation.
And you will bring back a recommendation?
I will bring back a recommendation on process.
Okay, and you bring back a recommendation on process.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Moved and seconded. Other discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 4-0. Thank you very much. Okay. I guess I should mention also dates. City offices will be closed. Christmas Day on the 25th, of course, and New Year's on the 1st are the days that we will be closed. No extra days around that, apparently. I don't even know what days of the week those are.
Are you off Christmas Eve? Monday.
Monday.
Can't give you a definitive answer.
Okay. So maybe the 24th?
Perhaps.
Perhaps, okay. All right. That is enough, I think, of that. Councilor Starr, would you like to make any final councilor comments?
Sure, since I'm on a roll. No, I'm just kidding. I do want to highlight several things. The first is I've had this piece of paper up here that I look at since I started, and there's 3 bullets here, and it just says, Councilor Starr's questions. Are you spending your neighbor's money wisely? Are you respecting one of the main foundations of a democracy, personal property rights? And did you strive for communication, transparency, and service to the public? And I guess as people look at my 8 years here, they can come to their own conclusions. I'd like to think that I did my best to respect all 3 of these bullet points and Ben, I'd be happy to give you a copy when you start. But it's a good reminder, and I want to say, I'm not calling myself out for this. I want to say that the council, I think, does a very good job of trying to do right by these three questions. And probably one of the biggest things that I've learned since being a counselor is and I think I had, this quote was in the Boones Ferry Messenger, when I first got into this, I was just thinking that 80% of what I would have to do was black and white and 20% was gray, and it was actually 80% gray and 20% black and white. And a lot of things that you vote on sometimes have unintended consequences that may be more harsh than what you're actually trying to vote on. And so, philosophically, I'm guessing I've been right around the same position, or found myself moving more towards the center just because of all the different things that come at us, trying to just come up with the right decision. One other thing that I'd like to say is the beauty of the word council is that it's a group of people that are making a decision. Hopefully this group has done a good job in leading our two employees, the city attorney and the city manager, but also it's not one person's opinion, but it's the blend of all five people's opinion. It really matters to get to hear the other opinions. I forget who, someone came up to me during the break and said, I appreciate the fact that you showed up and you may have been leaning one way, but you always listen to everything to make up your mind and make a decision before the vote. And that's because I wanted to hear what Charlotte had to say and Kristen had to say and Tim had to say and Susie had to say, so that I could make sure I wasn't missing anything along the way to come up with hopefully what was the best decision, not for Scott Starr, but for the city of Wilsonville. And so as long as we keep doing that, I think we'll be in good shape. This council and most of the councils, because they morph every 2 years that I've had the opportunity to be on, and especially Tim and I for the whole 8 years, really respect the mayor and his dedication to the city. And although we don't agree on everything, we can talk and we, debate the issues and try to figure out the best thing, not for my opinion or his opinion, but for the city of Wilsonville. And so hopefully that tradition will keep on. I'm sure it will. But it's just been a pleasure to serve with all of you and Susie, wherever you are, somewhere in Wisconsin, I think. But thanks for this opportunity, and I really appreciate how much each one of you loves the city of Wilsonville and how much you've sacrificed for it. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilor Lee?
Oh, okay. I wasn't going to talk philosophy now, but I did want to say, just express Merry Christmas and happy holidays to the citizens and the council, the staff, etc., because this is our last meeting before the new year. And in that regard, I wanted to say in particular to Public Works, what a great job they have done on decorating the town. Because and in particular, several people have mentioned to me about our spiral colored tree at Boones Ferry and Wilsonville Road with the star on the top of it.
Looks good.
And it's so pretty. And it's and I watched them with their cranes and trimming that, like giving it a perfect haircut to get it exactly before they put the lights around it. And you look at those. I think they measured each one of those spirals.
They did.
They are perfectly.
I think it's affectionately called Ralph's Tree. Is that right? It's Ralph's Tree. That's what we call it.
Well,
Ralph
I don't know.
Streets Department.
But it is it's so perfect, and it is really beautiful. I would say also all of the little trees that go down the medians, I think they really look fabulous also. We, of course, started out with those on the trees, the lights on the trees, are on our median trees, but the darn trees kept growing and growing, and they're too big to do that anymore from a practical sense. And so they came up with these little
Light trees.
pretend trees.
Yeah, teepee trees.
In between of them, and I think they look fabulous also. And then the other one I want to call out, which, well, the other thing with Public Works, have we always had this many decorations over there on the police station building?
They get a little more creative every year.
I see, because those are very interesting things there. I don't know if that's Public Works or the police or
It's
who's
Public
out
Works.
doing that. But that one is also very pretty. And then the private sector one that I think is really good, besides Mercedes, but with their tree that they do, but is Progress. I think it's Progress at Kinsman and Wilsonville Road. Have I just missed this before? But it's so perfect the way they've lit those columnar bushes or whatever they are that are on all the corners in between of the windows. And so the reflection on the windows of each one of those columns is really impressive how they have done that on that building. So we have many nice holiday lights besides in the neighborhoods, which many neighborhoods have great holiday lights also. But just wanted to say that about our main drive. Wilsonville Road. So Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
As always have.
Councilor Ackerville.
Just wanted to also kind of reiterate some happy holidays wishes to everyone as we close out the year. And thanks to staff, thanks to council for your work and your service. And I'm reminded, especially now this week, how important it is that we can all take a pause and send out some kindness and some care to our community. And I'm very grateful for the community leaders, the educators, people in our parks department I was thinking of this morning as well, that do that routinely and will continue to push that forward into this next year. So something that I'm looking forward to as well for 2019. Yeah, thanks.
Well, I think that kind of an underlying theme in all of the kind of comments that I'm hearing is that Wilsonville is a community, and its strength is in looking out for the whole community and all the people, keeping in mind that not everyone has all the advantages, and that we need to kind of maintain our perspective. And we have people in the community that have had difficulties, even tragic circumstances here recently at times, and including this past weekend. And people survive difficult times through, the members of the community around them, their friends, their neighbors. And we need to remember that we may have neighbors that are in need a little extra acknowledgement in a lot of ways. And keep in mind that one of our objectives is to have a community where everybody has a place where they are part of the community, where they fit in, where they can be comfortable, where they feel supported. And a lot of the decisions that the council makes are in that larger context. It may sound like a question of, do we build this road or do we do something else? But the overriding thing is what is the community that we're part of and that we're intending to build going forward? So I hope that we always keep that in mind and that we are doing a reasonable job at doing that. I think Wilsonville is a special town, and a lot of things affirm that, and we just need to continue thoughtfully moving forward. So maybe this is a good time of year to try to remember that too.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a consent agenda, limited item, one item.
Minutes of the November 27, 2018 special council meeting.
Your Honor, I move to approve the consent agenda as read.
Second?
Moved and seconded, we approve consent agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Passes 4-0. Bringing us to our public hearings, of which we have, what, 3 listed, starting with Resolution 2702.
Resolution number 2702, a resolution of the City of Wilsonville adopting the 2018 Boones Ferry Park Master Plan.
Thank you. So this is a formal public hearing, and as staff comes forward, I will call to order the public hearing. Ladies and gentlemen, council will take public testimony tonight in a public hearing format. We will conduct as follows. First, city staff will present their report, then we will ask for testimony by proponents, opponents, and those neither in favor nor opposed to the proposed resolution. If you wish to testify, please complete a speaker card like this from the counter at the side of the room. Pass it forward to the city recorder. When called, come forward to the microphone, state your name and address, and make your statement. I do request those providing testimony not repeat testimony already given. Simply indicating your agreement with certain prior testimony is entirely sufficient. Gentlemen.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor. And thanks for all the nice comments about all staff, Parks and Rec especially, thank you. And Scott Starr, Councilor President, thank you. Only worked with you a little less than 2 years. You've been awesome for us and our department, and wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you.
As far as tonight with our Boones Ferry Master Plan, it's been a while, but we tried to get it the best we could, and we think we got a really good product. I think we came to the council, let's see, November 19th to a work session. Had very few comments, a couple suggestions. We had it actually adopted by the Planning Commission, public hearing on November 14th, Wednesday, November 14th. And we also had it adopted by the Parks and Rec Board in July, or at least recommended to move forward. I'm not gonna read the whole thing again, because we've done it before. We're gonna show you a quick 3 or 4 or 5 slides with the master plan. Nothing's changed since we were here last time. Again, we believe that we've been working diligently on this for a long, long time, and I thank you for your patience. I thank my staff, Chris Namsu's staff, administration with Brian and Gina, attorney's office. There's been a lot of people involved in this whole process, and we think we finally got to a plan that this city could be proud of for the next 15 to 20 years. And with that, I'm going to give it to Brian Stevenson. He's going to lead you through 3 or 4 or 5 slides, like I said, and then answer questions if you have any. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. So just real quick to recap, we're really proud of the public outreach we were able to do for this project. Did our best to hear from everyone in the community that wanted to comment on the project, hear what was important to them. And as Mike mentioned, we feel like we did a good job of hearing those desires and getting them into this plan. We started with 3 different plans, all with various elements, scaled that down to 1, made some tweaks to that, and then results in the final design that you'll see here tonight. The plan in front of you has a number of elements. We're just going to touch on a couple of the main ones that really are what we heard loud and clear through the community. And number 1, across all public meetings, was river access. And this particular plan incorporates river access in a few different elements. One that we're very proud of is going to be a dock that will provide non-motorized boat access. We'll also have the opportunity for non-motorized rentals for those folks that want to come and explore the river and may not have their own equipment. Additionally, for those more passive recreators, we will have a number of river overlooks as well as a trail that goes alongside the river at the top of the bank, and a seasonal trail that will connect from the dock at the bottom of the hill and venture up towards the top. The park also does add a dog park and some additional parking, and we're very proud of this plan because it also does incorporate a landing site for the future French Prairie Bridge and a number of trail connections to both current and future trails within the community. This plan is designed to be phased if necessary, with the number one piece of that being what we heard loud and clear from the community, being that river piece. So there are 5 phases, number 1 being all elements along the river, number 2 being the dog park area, as well as a parking lot and restroom to serve that area. Third, including the Toffman House, a renovation there, a new event plaza, and a relocation of the basketball court. The fourth area being on the north end, a very passive area, which will just have a couple trails that go through there, as well as a small parking area. And the fifth area being the landing site for the French Prairie Bridge and another small parking area. And that's all we really have for you tonight. I just wanted to recap the plan and answer any questions that may have come up since the last time we were in front of you.
Well, thank you, and I think it does deserve acknowledgement, the extensive degree to which public outreach and public participation has been part of this. I know that council envisioned some kind of a park that the entire city would be interested in and drawn to when we undertook to purchase that additional acreage along the river, and the plan seems to have developed some intriguing and interesting ways to use that acreage. So, council, any questions for staff with regard to the plan proposal?
I think it's a great start, and who knows how many years it'll take to see it through every one of the phases. I'm excited about the potential for so many more citizens to be able to access the river, which is what a major council goal of ours. Personally, I'd love to see more than one dock at some point in time, but I think we just have to take this in bite-sized chunks and kind of go from there. But this is a great first start, and I can't wait to hang down there and check out the river.
Anything else? Go ahead.
No, I just reiterate, I mean, as you said in your presentation, people really want to be able to have that point of engagement with the river. And it's exciting to see it on the horizon for us here. So we'll be there with bells on when we can, right? We can finally cut the ribbon and get down to that dock. Because I know it's really desired by a lot of people in this community. We have such an amazing asset to have the river right here, part of our city. So more ways that we can engage with it. It's going to be terrific.
Can I ask, are we planning on a dock like this where you won't fall out of the boat when you get in?
Yeah.
Something along those lines, yes.
Well, that would be interesting. That would be less scary for getting in.
Your boat doesn't float away.
Okay, I have not received any cards from the public requesting to speak. Is there any member of the public that would like to speak on this public input portion of this consideration? I'm seeing nobody. If that's where we are, then I will close the public hearing and ask council, what would you prefer to do with Resolution 2702?
Your Honor, I move that we approve Resolution 2702.
Thank you. Moved and seconded that we approve 2702. Any discussion on council?
Get it done.
If not, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, passes 4-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bring us to Resolution 2718.
Resolution number 2718, a resolution of the City of Wilsonville approving the continuation and modification of the recycling surcharge rates for the Keller Drop Box, Inc., DBA Republic Services of Clackamas and Washington Counties. And this is an item that originally was intended to be on consent, but it did get noticed as a public hearing, so we do need to open the public hearing and see if any citizens want to testify. Otherwise, I think council's been fully briefed on this matter, but staff is here if there are questions.
Okay, in that case, I will call to order a formal public hearing with regard to Resolution 2718. Ladies and gentlemen, council will take testimony tonight in a public hearing format. We will conduct as follows. First, city staff will present their comments. Then we will ask for testimony by proponents, opponents, and those neither in favor nor opposed to the proposed resolution. If you wish to testify, please complete a speaker card from the counter at the side of the room. Pass it forward to the city recorder. When called, come forward to the microphone, state your name and address, and make your statement. I do request those providing testimony not repeat testimony already given. Simply indicating your agreement with certain prior testimony is entirely sufficient. So is there a report or just...
Thank you, Mayor Knapp. Amanda Geil-Hinman, Assistant City Attorney.
Yes.
No official report or presentation for the council this evening. I do want to acknowledge that Republic Services is in the audience. I don't believe that they plan on testifying, but I believe council has received an email from Republic Services generally regarding the recycling market. And I also understand that there was a question raised about notification to customers, and we have spoken with Republic Services that they can do that, and we will be working with them to make sure that a notice gets out upon approval by council.
Okay.
I would just clarify, that's just for the additional business charge. That notice for everybody else already went out.
Right.
Right.
Correct.
Okay. Council, any questions for staff with regard to this resolution? If not, I'll ask if there's any member of the public that would like to provide testimony on this proposal. Going once, going twice. Nobody wants to testify. I will close the public hearing and ask council, what would you like to do with Resolution 2718?
Your Honor, I move we approve resolution number 2718.
Second. Moved and seconded. We approve Resolution 2718. Remind the council, I guess, that this is purported to be a temporary surcharge for recycling purposes because of the down market in recyclables, and it's up for review in a year is the way that it's drafted, so that we can then see where the markets are and where our needs are at that point in time. Any discussion?
Just that this is a national issue that we're looking at right now, and it's really unfortunate. But in some ways, even though the price is going up because we can't ship it to China, you ship it there and forget about it, and who knows what the impact is in China. And I have a feeling, even though we're spending more money, I'm hoping that it'll be much more responsible with how these recyclables are being taken care of. I don't know if anybody saw 60 Minutes yesterday, but it was disgusting what's going on in the oceans as far as how many plastics are ending up there. So hopefully this is a step in the right direction to figure out how to take care of this issue responsibly for the environment of the whole earth. So that's my thoughts.
Yeah. In my view, ideally, we would help incentivize some domestic businesses to create a model whereby they can process and profit enough to justify running operations onshore without having to ship this kind of product offshore. I'm not clear if that's happening yet.
The easiest way and the most efficient way always is to reduce it at the front end. You know, I mean, that's what we have to do. We buy more plastic stuff and little stuff wrapped in giant pieces of plastic. And we've got to change that around. I mean, it's hard to even buy groceries without coming back with half a trash thing full of plastic.
Finding microplastic in everything.
in everything.
Paste.
And I've asked this, I asked that question about the weed eater string. Where is that? You know, you go through reels and reels of weed eater string, and it doesn't just disappear. It's still here somewhere on the planet, but it's at every level, microscopic and else. And so we have to think about it from the front end of reducing it, not how we can be more efficient at the back end.
I agree.
I guess I'll just have to say, I'm reminded that the performer Mason Williams, who you guys may not know who that is, back in the 1960s, you know, was also a comedian or somewhat. And he had made a comment about, whatever happened to all the rubber that's worn off of tires since we started?
Washed away.
Same deal, sitting with the plastic on the side of the road.
Probably somewhere.
Exactly.
Okay. Are we ready to vote then?
Yeah.
All in favor of the motion to approve Resolution 2718, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, passes 4-0. Bringing us to ordinance number 830.
Ordinance number 830, an ordinance of the City of Wilsonville approving a zone map amendment from the Clackamas County exclusive farm use zone to the village zone on approximately 25.69 acres in the north central portion of Villebois from 110th Avenue to Calais East Subdivision, south of Tews Road to Berlin Avenue. The land is more particularly described as tax lot 7200, 7290, 7300, 7400, 7500, and 7600. Section 5AB, Township 3 South, Range 1 West, Willamette Meridian, Clackamas County, Oregon. And it's a polygon project.
So here again, we have a public hearing, which I'll call to order with regard to ordinance number 830, as has just been read. Ladies and gentlemen, council will take public testimony tonight in a public hearing format. Hearing will be conducted as follows. First, city staff will present their report. Then we will ask for testimony by proponents, opponents, and those neither in favor nor opposed to the proposed ordinance. If you wish to testify, please complete a speaker card from the counter at the side of the room. Pass it forward to the city recorder. When called, come forward to the microphone, state your name and address, and make your statement. I do request those providing testimony not repeat testimony already given. Simply indicating your agreement with certain prior testimony is entirely sufficient.
Your Honor, I would just note that it was read as Section 5AB, and it's actually Section 15AB.
All right, so we've got that correction. Thank you. Mr. Polly.
Thank you, Mayor. That was read very efficiently. Thank you. I'll try to be efficient too. So Daniel Foley, Senior Planner. And as required by statute, I would announce the criteria applicable to this application are stated on page 2 of attachment 2 to the ordinance, which has been entered into the record. Copies of the report are available on the counter at the side of the room. So we, as in the record, we spoke about this project a lot a couple weeks ago. This is, and subsequently we didn't receive any appeals of the DRB's decision that we discussed. So we're here on the last piece of this, which is the zone change. And this, as this map shows, the yellow, out of all Villebois, the yellow is the portion that's not yet rezoned and have with land use approval. So this is the big yellow spot in the middle, up in the north central part of Villebois. Once this is rezoned, the only portion not rezoned is the projects immediately around the piazza. So this is a fairly big milestone in terms of this long-term project the city's been pursuing in building out Villebois to be a great community. And I always say on these, I didn't count, but I've brought this same issue to the council a few times over the years, where really there's one menu option. We adopted comprehensive plan that applied to the whole Villebois master plan area. with the plan that when that area was proposed for development and approved for development, we would rezone it to the zone village that was created specifically for Villebois. So that is what's proposed with this ordinance, is to change it from the current Clackamas County designation of exclusive farm use to the proposed village zone, along with the rest of Villebois. That said, just an update on what was discussed last week. We continue to, I was told today that the different design options that the applicants come up with will be coming, if it's not in my inbox now, very soon tomorrow. And that's something that will continue that conversation with the community and make any administrative decisions necessary to bring that reduced lots and the proper alignment of that trail connection to what works best for the neighbors. Comments earlier about the tennis court, just a little bit of history there. That was something that's been discussed at length, particularly at Parks Board, as well as DRB, about the number of tennis courts and whether they should be there at all. A lot of public comment about that. So I would say both the Parks Board and the DRB made a decision, fully aware of competing interests and things to balance there. And we ended up with a single tennis court oriented north-south in that eastern portion of Regional Park 5. So with that, happy to answer any questions.
Then you can confirm that that's not a lighted court.
Correct. There's
Daylight hours only.
Daylight hours, there's lights, there's pedestrian lights on the trail, but no lights particularly for the tennis courts.
And how far away with that reduction from 2 courts to 1 and the repositioning will it be from the other houses?
The same distance. There's already buffering, and I mean, it's across the street, plus landscape buffering on both sides of the street. So, I mean, it's already, unless you're putting it far away in the middle of the woods, it's already a reasonable distance. A lot of what we heard is, taking up too much of that area in the eastern portion, as well as concerns about parking impacts. And so that's where we went with the reduction of number of courts, and particularly acknowledged it through parks planning, like was talked about tonight. We've heard a lot from the pickleball community and the realization this would likely be used more as a double pickleball court, probably than a tennis court.
Is pickleball as noisy as tennis?
That's debate. We've heard different ideas, but we haven't heard noise complaints about the pickleball courts that have been built in Villebois.
Okay. And just to reiterate, what different venues have we been receiving testimony on this issue in the process of getting to the point we are now?
So this issue of being close to neighbors, we even felt out some of the neighbors before it ever went to DRB and saw their thoughts. Then we took it to Parks Board, got their thoughts.
Okay, DRB had public testimony options?
Yes.
So people could show up, and some did show up at DRB to discuss?
And there is written testimony on the record concerning this issue at DRB as well.
At DRB, okay, and then from DRB it went to?
We discussed it at council.
Okay. The master plan under which this was designed was reviewed by Planning Commission?
And council, yes.
Yeah. So it's got a long history.
It has a very long history. Even comes before Scott was on council. It's.
What about Councilor Lehan?
Well, that's another story.
Okay.
I had nothing to do with the planning of this.
Council, any questions for staff?
Well, and you mentioned, so this went to Parks and Rec before it went to DRB.
Correct.
They reviewed the park as well. And I'm remembering from the public record from the DRB meeting, I believe, that some of the concern was the loss of the green lawn space, the play space. And when I was reviewing the packet, page 492 of our packet, probably page 5 of 79 maybe of your section. But there was a table that showed the master plan and the proposed plan and the acreage in size of both the overall parks as well as the lawn play areas.
Mayor, I hate to
Can I not?
interject.
Yeah.
We're
it's
talking
okay.
about something that has nothing to do with what's before you tonight, and if you open that door, you open yourself up to a potential legal challenge.
Okay.
So I would recommend that you just allow Steph to administratively do what it needs to do, but that you not allow comments on a park, because the zoning has nothing to do with the park.
Yeah. And there was ample opportunity and notice and specific outreach there was the thorough discussion. And staff intends to update you on what we discussed last week outside of this, since it's related. But really, the DRB decision was finalized as of this last Tuesday, the 11th.
We can't revisit, can't have another bite at the apple.
That's okay.
But we're
I understand.
sensitive to the fact that this is an issue for the neighborhood. We are going to do everything we can to, probably not going to please everyone, but we'll certainly do everything we can to make sure that whatever final elements are in that park are in tune with the sensitivities of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Okay, then I need legal advice because I have a member of the public that would like to speak.
You can speak to the zoning, but you can't really get into the park issue because that's already been dealt with.
I mean, you can let anybody testify about anything, and I think the testimony was already given during citizens input, but it can't be considered as part of the zoning designation, and as long as the speaker is aware of that, he may not want to speak about, unless he wants to speak about not changing the zoning and not allowing any development to go there. That would be the only thing that's before this council tonight.
Okay, Mr. Yang, you've put in a speaker card. I don't have any other speaker cards. If there's any other member of the public would like to speak, would like to please complete a speaker card and pass it forward. Is there anything else from staff before we?
We do have the applicant here as well.
Does the applicant wish to speak?
Would.
Yeah, they're here for questions, but otherwise don't have any additional comments.
Okay, so I'm going to invite the public to speak at this point. Mr. Yang, if you would like to speak, we need to have this addressed specifically to the proposed zoning change, not to the elements of the park, which was previously decided.
Not to the element of the park. That's part of the change. That's part of this whole plan.
Not legally.
He can come up and speak. You just
Yeah.
can't. It has to be addressing the conditions related to the zone change.
Right. The issue before the council is the change in zoning from the exclusive farm use to being part of the Villebois Village. That's the issue that's in front of council tonight. Do you wish to speak? Sir, you cannot talk from back there because this is on the recording, and so you need to identify yourself if you would.
I have to clear ask. So for the region Park 6, the location of the park change, is that part of a zoning change?
No.
Part of that's not.
That's previously been, as we were trying to elicit from the staff testimony that was considered in front of the Parks Board. It was considered at the Development Review Board. There was chance for public testimony there. The council heard this question a couple of weeks ago. There was testimony there. It's done.
Okay. And for the park, the element itself, how to arrange the park is inside. So that's not part of a discussion.
No. Tonight's question is whether the zone should be changed from farming to part of the village.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other member of the public that would like to speak? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing and Ask council, do you have any questions for staff or for the applicant at this point in time before we consider? Councilor Lehan.
Well, just in terms of the procedural issue that leaves us a little confused here is that we were being updated on the changes that were made post DRB. And we were kind of waiting, and we were, we were very pleased with how cooperative the applicant was in making these changes, but we never saw the.
Staff is committed to bringing that back to you once it's finalized. We got the recommendations and the tweaks that were made from public comment. And I believe that staff is working cooperatively with the applicant to make those changes. And once those are done, we will bring those back to you. We will also communicate those to the neighborhood.
But you're doing those administratively?
Yes. Everything related to the park has been approved.
Right. Oh, well.
How will it be communicated to the neighborhood? So just because I think, sorry, I think that's part of the comments tonight. People just want to know how and what channels to get information from, so.
So there's the basic legal one and then additional outreach that we're planning. So first of all, I mean, we have ample contact information for everyone that's been involved in the process, and particularly emails and a lot of phone numbers. And beyond the notice that would go out legally is that we'll reach out to those interested parties that have been involved and let them know of the options and give them a period to comment. And we have the luxury, and that's why we don't have this option for you tonight, is we want to take the time to allow comment because, I mean, they're not starting construction, right away or anything. So we want to take that time for them to see those options and think about it. And then we will do what's called a Class 2 administrative review is what we're anticipating, where we'd send notice to the same surrounding properties, and that would be subsequently appealable to DRB, et cetera. But the main thing is we'll do a particular outreach to the people that we have contact information for in the neighborhood. Once we have, which I understand we have on a thumb drive already, but I have not seen yet. And so those are done, and we're going to get those out to the neighbors here very soon and get their comments.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we can include, is it Zhu? The Zhus?
Yes, we have their contact information.
Good.
Okay, though I'm not sure I'm less confused. I might be more confused because I heard Mr. Pauly now talking about options, and I didn't think there were options.
Hopefully this can help.
So there's the 2 lots that were taken out. So that's done. That's going to be included in whichever option. Really, the question is, there's a path coming from the street to the south up there, and the discussion of where the neighbors prefer that path connection at. That's really the question before them.
Okay, so the question of whether 1 tennis court or 2 and where it's located is not an option still being looked at?
Correct.
Right.
It's been established?
Correct.
So
It
that
was reduced from 2 to 1 based on neighborhood feedback. So there were some tweaks that were made.
Okay.
I'll add that
I'm just trying to be clear to anybody that's watching this, that that's not an option still being
correct.
Batted around.
That was particularly a discussion point when the developer had a neighborhood meeting, and they took that feedback and made modifications accordingly.
Okay. All right. Losing track here. Did we close the hearing?
No, I don't think so.
You have not yet.
Is there any member of the public that would like to speak with regard to ordinance number 830 on zone change? I see no more, so I'm going to close the public hearing on ordinance number 830 and ask the council, what's your pleasure with regard to this ordinance?
Your Honor, I would move to adopt ordinance number 830.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to adopt ordinance number 830 on the zone change. Discussion?
I have a question.
Councilor Starr.
Since this is requiring a first and second vote, do I just abstain?
You weren't here last time.
Say what?
If you didn't review the full record, then you should abstain.
Okay.
This is the first reading?
That's what I was saying, though.
Should he vote if he's not going to be here for the second?
Oh, I see.
It's not listed as a first reading.
That it's an ordinance.
I read something where it said there was a second vote.
Yeah, in packet, it does say.
An ordinance
Yeah,
is
in the
usually
packet.
It
first
says
and second.
January 7th is the second.
So is there a first and second reading on this?
Let me get to the staff report real quick.
Under recommended language for motion,
What does it say?
I move to approve ordinance 830 on first reading.
So you can vote on it because you've been involved the whole time.
Okay.
We won't ask you to come back and vote a second time because you won't be on council anymore.
Okay,
Fair enough?
fair.
So my print copy doesn't say that.
It's the staff report that,
Okay.
It's missing in the.
Then I will move to approve ordinance number 830 on first reading.
And I'll second the first reading.
Okay. So now we got that cleared up. Any other questions or discussion? I guess I would only want to say that I've been with the city since we first started talking about Villebois, so I probably was in one of the first conceptual rounds of planning on Villebois, which means it was 12 years ago or something.
No, it started in 96.
It was
It's more than 12
years
years.
ago.
more than 12 years ago.
Yeah.
But not this part.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Throughout the process, we have had open public hearings and chances for people to say what they think. It's difficult when people do not become aware early enough to really enter their voices in the dialogue before decisions are made. And I think we just have to keep working at notice to people, and I know that we do more than we're required to do, and we'll continue to do that. I think it's also been demonstrated that people are frequently apprehensive about change, about build-out that hasn't occurred yet, and on the whole, through how many steps has Villebois approval been through? I've lost track. I mean, 20, 50, I don't know how many approval votes we've had on Villebois. It's produced a very high-quality community, and people like living there. It's been a very robust community and a very desirable community for a lot of our citizens to live in, and I think that we have done well and will continue to do well with the way that we respond to our citizens and build things. And I think that I would ask people to not prejudge what the outcome is going to be until they see it. I think that the indications are that the city and the developer have been responsive to the concerns of the neighborhood as we have proceeded through many, many steps, and that continues to be true, and that the outcome will not be a problem to any great extent, and will be perhaps better than people have worried about. So I think that the process that Villebois has been through has produced a desirable community, and I think it will continue to be a very desirable community as we finish these last some parts of the construction. So I guess I just wanted to offer that. If there's no other discussion desired or questions for staff or applicant, I will ask you, all in favor of the motion to adopt ordinance number 830 on first reading, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 4-0. Thank you very much. Mr. Cosgrove.
In keeping with the holiday themes of earlier, happy holidays to all of you. and to the staff and to the community. I'll be taking some time off next week to avoid retail outlets, decompress, and spend some time with my kids. So I wanted you to know that. And thank you, Councilor Leham, for the kind comments about Public Works. I'll pass those on. Appreciate it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Legal.
Happy holidays.
Thank you very much. Mr. Starr,
It's been an honor.
I'm going to adjourn you from your last meeting
Thank you.
until we call on you for some special assignment. Yeah.